I'll be home late again, I said as I tightened my tie. Sophia smiled, though her eyes looked tired. You always say that. I know, just a few more months. Once I get the promotion, everything will be easier. You've been saying that for a year. I step closer and kiss her forehead. I mean it this time. She forced a small smile. I hope you're right. I love you. I love you too. I grabbed my keys and walked out before I could see the disappointment on her face any longer. Every late night felt like another brick in the future I was building for us. Every extra hour meant more money, more security, and a better life. At least, that was what I kept telling myself. The office lights were already bright when I arrived. Daniel looked up from his desk. You beat me again. I had trouble sleeping. No, he laughed. You had trouble going home. Very funny. He rolled his chair toward me. Ethan, seriously, when was the last time you had dinner with your wife? I don't remember. That's the problem. I have responsibilities. So does she. I open my laptop. This project won't finish itself. Date new site. Neither will your marriage. I laughed because it was easier than thinking about his words. You worry too much. I've been divorced once, he said quietly. I know what too much work can do. My situation is different. Everyone says that. Before I could answer, my phone buzzed. Sophia asterisk, don't forget to eat lunch. I smiled. Me asterisk, only if you promise the same. She replied with a heart. That little message convinced me everything was fine. Hours disappeared without warning. Meetings, emails, reports, deadlines. By the time I looked outside, the sun was already setting. Michael, my manager, stopped beside my desk. Still here? I want to finish today's numbers. You've already done enough. I can do more. He nodded. That's why you're being considered for the promotion. Those words filled me with fresh energy. Thank you. Just remember something. What? A promotion isn't worth losing everything else. I smiled politely. I'll keep that in mind. The truth was I didn't. When I finally drove home, I stopped to buy Sophia's favorite chocolate. I wanted her to know I appreciated her patience. She deserved that much. As I pulled into our driveway, another car caught my attention. Ryan's truck. I smiled. My younger brother always knew how to cheer people up. He probably came by so Sophia wouldn't feel lonely. Inside the house, Ryan laughed loudly. There he is, he shouted. Sophia walked out of the kitchen carrying 3 plates. You're home early. It doesn't feel early. Ryan slapped my shoulder. I was keeping your wife entertained. I appreciate it. Sophia smiled. It's nice having someone to talk to. I know I've been busy. Ryan grabbed a soda from the refrigerator. You're working too hard. You sound like Daniel. Maybe Daniel is smarter than you. I laughed. You two planned the speech? Sophia shook her head. We're just worried. I'll slow down after the promotion. Ryan raised an eyebrow. You've been saying that forever. I ignored the comment. Dinner passed with light conversation. Ryan told funny stories. Sophia laughed harder than I had seen in weeks. Seeing her smile made me feel relieved. Maybe everything really was okay. When Ryan finally left, I hugged Sophia. Thank you for understanding. She rested her head against my chest. I just miss you. I'm doing this for us. I know. I promised things would change. She whispered softly. I hope so. The next few weeks looked exactly the same. Work, late nights, promises, exhaustion. One Saturday morning, I was washing my car when our elderly neighbor walked over. Mrs. Brooks smiled warmly. Good morning, Ethan. Morning. You've been working hard. Trying to. She hesitated. Can I ask something? Of course. I've noticed Ryan's truck here almost every evening. I smiled. He keeps Sophia company. Oh. She looked uncertain. I only mentioned it because I thought you should know. I appreciate your concern. She nodded slowly. You're a good man. Thank you. As she walked away, I shook my head. People always imagine problems where none existed. Ryan was my brother. Sophia was my wife. There was nothing to worry about. That night, another emergency meeting kept me at work until nearly midnight. Daniel packed his bag. Go home. I need another hour. You always need another hour. I'll survive. He looked at me sadly. I hope your family survives too. His words followed me all the way home. I parked in the driveway and noticed every light inside the house was off. That was strange. Sophia usually left the porch light on whenever I worked late. I unlocked the front door. The familiar smell of dinner was gone. The television wasn't playing. No music drifted through the hallway. No footsteps hurried toward me. No voice called my name. I stood perfectly still. Our home had always felt warm. Now it felt empty. The silence wrapped around me so tightly that I couldn't explain why my heart suddenly began to race. I stood in the doorway, listening. Nothing. Not a single sound. My hand tightened around my keys. Sophia? I called. No answer. I stepped farther inside and closed the front door behind me. The silence settled around me like a heavy blanket. Something felt wrong. I couldn't explain why. I walked toward the kitchen. 2 coffee cups sat on the counter. One had Sophia's favorite blue mug. The other belonged to Ryan. I stared at them. They were probably talking. I whispered to myself. My eyes moved across the room. Ryan's jacket hung on the coat rack beside the door. I frowned. He must have forgotten it. Then I heard it. A quiet laugh. It came from upstairs. It lasted only a second. The moment my shoes touched the first step, the laughter stopped. Complete silence followed. My heart began pounding. Sophia? Still nothing. I climbed another step. Every creak of the stairs sounded louder than usual. I reached the hallway. The bedroom door slowly opened. Sophia walked out first. Her face had lost every bit of color. Ryan stepped out behind her. Neither of them spoke. Neither of them looked surprised to see me. They looked guilty. That was enough. I looked from Sophia to Ryan, then back again. My mouth opened, but no words came out. Ryan rubbed the back of his neck. Ethan, I kept staring. Sophia folded her arms tightly across her chest. I can explain. No, I finally whispered. You don't have to. Ryan looked at the floor. It wasn't supposed to happen. I laughed. The sound didn't even feel like mine. What wasn't supposed to happen? He swallowed. Us. The hallway seemed to spin around me. I grabbed the wall to keep my balance. Sophia stepped closer. Please listen. I took one step back. How long? Neither of them answered. How long? Ryan closed his eyes. A few months. A few months. My voice cracked. A few months while I worked every night. Sophia wiped away a tear. You were never here. I was working. I know. I was working for us. You were working for your job. I shook my head. No. I was working so we could have a better life. She looked at me with tired eyes. I didn't need a bigger house. I needed my husband. Those words hit harder than anything else. Ryan spoke quietly. I never wanted to hurt you. I turned toward him. You were my brother. I know. You ate at my table. I know. I trusted you. I'm sorry. Sorry. I laughed again. You called us sorry? He lowered his head. I didn't plan this. So it just happened? Neither of them answered. I looked at Sophia. Did you love him? She hesitated. I don't know. That answer hurt more than if she had simply said yes. You don't know? I was lonely. I called you every day. You called between meetings. I texted you. You sent hearts and promises. I was trying. You stopped trying at home. My chest felt tight. So this is my fault? I didn't say that. You blame my work. I'm saying I felt invisible. I worked because I loved you. I know. No. I pointed toward Ryan. You don't know. Ryan stepped forward. Ethan, yell at me. I looked at him without blinking. Hit me if you want. I shook my head slowly. It wouldn't change anything. You deserve better than this. I deserved a brother. Silence filled the hallway again. This time nobody tried to break it. I looked around the bedroom. Our wedding picture still hung on the wall. The bed was neatly made. Everything looked normal. Nothing was normal. I slipped my wedding ring off my finger. Sophia gasped, "Please don't." I placed it on the hallway table. "It doesn't belong to me anymore." She reached toward me. "Ethan," I stepped away before she could touch me. "I don't even know who you are." Tears rolled down her face. "I never wanted this." "But you chose it." She couldn't answer. Ryan spoke again. "I'll leave." I looked at him. "You already left." "What do you mean?" "You stopped being my brother the moment you walked into this house with the wrong intentions." His shoulders dropped. "I hate myself." "Good." Nobody moved. Nobody spoke. The silence returned. It felt louder than shouting, louder than broken glass, louder than every promise we had ever made. I walked past both of them. Neither tried to stop me. I picked up my keys from the kitchen counter. As I reached the front door, Sophia whispered behind me, "Can you ever forgive me?" I rested my hand on the doorknob. I don't even know if I can remember who I was before tonight. Then I walked outside. The cool night air hit my face. I reached my car, unlocked the door, and climbed inside. The moment the door closed, every emotion I had been holding back crashed into me. My hands shook. My breathing became uneven. I grabbed the steering wheel as tears blurred my vision. "I did everything for us," I whispered. The words echoed inside the empty car. I lowered my forehead against the wheel. For the first time in years, I didn't care about tomorrow's meeting. I didn't care about promotions. I didn't care about overtime. None of it mattered anymore. The home I had worked so hard to protect had been falling apart long before I noticed. I had been building a future alone, while the people I trusted were quietly rewriting it without me. That night, I finally understood something I wished I had learned much sooner. My marriage hadn't ended when I opened that bedroom door. It had ended little by little, one lonely evening at a time, while I kept convincing myself everything was going to be okay. I barely slept after leaving the house. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw Sophia standing beside Ryan. Every apology sounded empty. Every promise I had ever believed felt like a lie. My phone rang just after sunrise. It was my mother. "Ethan, Ryan isn't answering me. Is everything okay?" I closed my eyes. "No, Mom." "What happened?" "I'll come over. I'll make breakfast. I'm not hungry. Just come." An hour later, I sat across from her kitchen table. She smiled as she poured coffee. "You look exhausted." I found Sophia and Ryan together. Her smile disappeared. "What do you mean together?" "I caught them having an affair." She laughed nervously. "That's not funny. I'm not joking." She shook her head immediately. "No, Nom, no. Ryan would never do that to you. He admitted it. I raised him better than that. I wish that mattered." She stood from her chair. "You misunderstood." "I didn't." Maybe Sophia was upset. They both confessed. She stared at me. "I don't believe it." My heart sank. "I knew you wouldn't." She reached for my hand. "Ethan, you're emotional. I watched my marriage fall apart. I'm sure there's another explanation." I slowly pulled out my phone. "I didn't want to do this." "What is it?" I recorded the conversation after they admitted everything. Her face turned pale. "You recorded it?" I needed to know I wasn't losing my mind. I pressed play. Ryan's voice filled the room. Asterisk, it wasn't supposed to happen. Asterisk, then Sophia answered. Asterisk, I was lonely. Asterisk, Ryan spoke again. Asterisk, I'm sorry, Ethan. Asterisk, the recording ended. My mother covered her mouth. Tears filled her eyes. "Oh, my God! I'm sorry you had to hear that." She sat down heavily. "I kept telling myself you were mistaken. I wanted to be." She began crying. "I failed both of you." "No." I shook my head. "Ryan made his own choices." She whispered softly. "I don't know how to face him." "I don't either." By afternoon, everyone seemed to know. My cousins called. Friends sent messages. Some offered support. Others asked uncomfortable questions. One message stopped me cold. Sophia asked her if people deserved to know the truth. A few minutes later, social media filled with rumors. Someone claimed I cared more about money than my marriage. Another person wrote that I had abandoned my wife for my career. Then Sophia posted her own statement. Asterisk, our marriage had been broken for a long time. I begged Ethan to spend time with me, but work always came first. Asterisk, hundreds of comments appeared. Some defended me. Others blamed me. I stared at the screen until my eyes hurt. Maybe they were right. Maybe I had worked too much. Maybe if I had come home earlier. My phone rang again. Daniel, you've been reading comments, haven't you? How did you know? Because you sound defeated. I ruined my marriage. No, I wasn't there. You were providing for your family. I still failed. Ethan, his voice became firm. Listen to me. I stayed quiet. Working to support your wife and son was never a crime. I should have balanced things better. Maybe, but balance isn't the same as betrayal. I rub my forehead. I keep wondering what I could have done differently. You didn't force Ryan into your house. No, you didn't force Sophia to lie. No, you didn't make either of them betray you. I finally took a deep breath. So, why do I still feel guilty? Because good people blame themselves before blaming others. His words stayed with me long after we ended the call. The next morning, I met my lawyer. Olivia Reed greeted me with a calm smile. I'm Olivia. I'm Ethan. I'm sorry we're meeting under these circumstances. So am I. She offered me a seat. I've reviewed the information you sent. I don't want revenge. Good. I looked at her. Really? Revenge usually costs more than justice. She opened a folder. My job is to protect your future. I don't even know what my future looks like. We'll figure it out. I nodded slowly. I keep apologizing. For what? For working too much. She folded her hands. Ethan, answer one question honestly. Okay. Did you ever tell your wife to have an affair? No. Did you ever ask your brother to betray you? Of course not. Then stop apologizing for someone else's decisions. Her words were simple. They were also exactly what I needed to hear. We discussed the house, our finances, custody, paperwork. Every signature felt like another piece of my old life disappearing. When I finished, Olivia stood. You'll get through this. I don't feel very strong. You don't have to feel strong. What do I have to do? Just keep moving. That evening, I stopped by the house to pick up some clothes. Sophia wasn't downstairs. Ryan's truck wasn't outside. Only Noah sat in the living room, building a tower with colorful blocks. His face lit up. Daddy. I knelt and hugged him tightly. Hey, buddy, I missed you. I missed you too. He smiled. Can you help me? Of course. We stacked blocks together in silence. Then he looked up at me. Daddy? Yes. Why does Mommy cry whenever Uncle Ryan comes over? The block slipped from my hand. What? She cries. My chest tightened, and Uncle Ryan hugs her. I couldn't breathe. Noah kept talking, completely innocent. Sometimes they stop talking when they hear your car. I forced myself to smile. Oh, did Mommy do something bad? I looked into my son's trusting eyes. Every answer felt impossible. I gently pulled him into my arms. No matter what happens, buddy. What? I love you more than anything. He hugged me back without hesitation. I love you too, Daddy. His tiny arms wrapped around my neck. I closed my eyes as tears quietly rolled down my face. In that moment, I realized I hadn't only lost my wife. I had lost a family I believed I was protecting. And hearing the truth through my son's innocent voice shattered what little remained in my heart. I woke up angry. Not the loud kind of anger that makes people shout. The quiet kind. The kind that follows every breath. Every time I looked at my phone, another message appeared. Asterisk, you should expose them. Asterisk, asterisk, tell everyone what they did. Asterisk, asterisk, make them regret it. Asterisk, for a moment, I wanted exactly that. I imagined posting the recording online. I imagined watching Ryan lose his friends. I imagined Sophia reading thousands of comments calling her a liar. The thought felt satisfying. For about 5 seconds. Then I remembered Noah. He would grow up one day. He would see everything. He didn't deserve parents who turned their pain into a public war. I put my phone face down and called Olivia. "Can you come in today?" she asked. "I need advice." "Then come." An hour later, I sat across from her desk again. "I want revenge," I admitted. She nodded calmly. "That's normal. I keep thinking about exposing them." And then, I don't know. What happens after everyone agrees they hurt you? I stayed silent. Does your marriage come back? No. Does your son stop hurting? No. Do you sleep better? I doubt it. She leaned forward. "Ethan, protecting your future is far more important than destroying theirs. They deserve consequences. They'll face them." "How?" "People who build relationships on lies usually spend years trying to survive them." I looked down. It still feels unfair. It is unfair. She didn't try to soften the truth. Sometimes justice isn't loud. "What do you mean?" "Sometimes justice is simply refusing to become the worst version of yourself." I slowly nodded. "I don't want Noah remembering me as an angry man." "Then don't become one." Her words settled deep inside me. That afternoon, I signed a lease for a small apartment. It wasn't fancy. The living room was small. The kitchen barely fit a table. The bedrooms were simple. But when I unlocked the door, something surprised me. It felt peaceful. There were no hidden lies inside those walls. Only empty rooms waiting for a fresh beginning. Daniel helped me carry boxes upstairs. He looked around and smiled. "Not bad. It feels smaller. It also feels lighter." I laughed quietly. I never thought I'd start over at this age. Life doesn't care about our plans. "I've noticed." He handed me another box. "You know what I like most?" "What?" "This place feels honest." I smiled. "It does." A few days later, Noah visited for the first time. He ran through every room. "Daddy." "What?" "My room has blue walls." "It does." "I like it. I'm glad." He jumped onto his new bed. "Can we build a blanket fort?" I laughed. "Absolutely." For the next hour, we covered chairs with blankets and filled the little fort with pillows. Noah smiled the entire time. "So," I asked, "what do you think?" He looked around proudly. "It feels like home." His words nearly brought tears to my eyes. That evening my phone rang. "Michael, Ethan, are you busy?" "Just making dinner." "You?" He laughed. "I honestly can't remember the last time you said those words." "Neither can I." "I've been thinking." "About what?" "You've carried this company for years." "I just did my job." "You did much more." "I waited. I'm offering you the leadership position." I frowned. I thought it required even longer hours. I changed my mind. "What?" I realized I rewarded people for staying late instead of working wisely. "So," "The promotion comes with better hours." I couldn't believe it. Really, I don't want to lose another good employee because work becomes their entire life. I smiled for the first time in days. "Thank you. You earned it." After we ended the call, I looked toward the kitchen. Noah stood on a chair, trying to stir spaghetti sauce. "Daddy." "What?" "Is this enough cheese?" I walked over laughing. "That depends." "On what?" "How much cheese do you think is enough?" He grinned. "All of it." He left had. Good answer. We ate dinner together at our tiny table. No television. No laptops. No work calls. Just the two of us. Noah talked about school. His favorite superhero. A funny joke his teacher told. I listened to every word. Not once did I check my phone. Halfway through dinner, Noah smiled. "I like when you're home." Those 5 words hit me harder than any promotion ever could. I realized how many dinners I had missed, how many stories I had never heard, how many memories over time had quietly stolen from me. Success suddenly looked different. It wasn't the office. It wasn't the bigger paycheck. It wasn't another title on a business card. Success was sitting across from my son while he laughed with spaghetti sauce on his face. That was the life I had been working for all along. The next morning, I met Olivia one last time. She placed several documents in front of me. These are the final divorce papers. I stared at them. My hands didn't shake this time. Are you ready? I thought about my wedding day, our first apartment, every promise, every broken lie. Then I thought about Noah, our new home, our quiet dinners, the future waiting ahead. I picked up the pen. I'm ready. I signed every page without stopping. Olivia collected the papers. I'll file them today. I stood and thanked her. As I walked out her office, I never looked back. For the first time since everything fell apart, I wasn't walking away from my life. I was walking toward it. 3 months passed before I heard Ryan's name again. Not because I was looking for news, because news kept finding me. I had stopped checking Sophia's social media. I had stopped asking mutual friends questions. I had stopped wondering whether they were happy. Some answers were better left alone. One Saturday morning, Noah and I were making pancakes when my phone buzzed. Mrs. Brooks. Good morning, Ethan. Morning. I hope I'm not bothering you. Not at all. She hesitated. I thought you should know something. What is it? I hear Ryan and Sophia arguing almost every night. I stayed quiet. They moved into the house across the neighborhood. I know. It isn't peaceful over there. I looked at Noah pouring too much syrup onto his pancakes. I'm sorry to hear that. I thought you want to know. Thank you. After we hung up, I placed my phone on the table. Noah smiled. Daddy. What? I made a syrup lake. I laughed. It definitely looks like one. He grinned proudly. For the first time in months, someone else's problems didn't ruin my morning. Later that week, Daniel stopped by my office. You've changed. Is that good or bad? You smile more. I sleep more. That helps. He leaned against my desk. You know Ryan quit his job? I looked up. No, he missed too many days. I didn't know. Apparently things aren't going well. I slowly closed the file in front of me. I hope he figures his life out. Daniel raised an eyebrow. That's all. What else should I say? I expected you to enjoy hearing it. I shook my head. I don't. You don't hate him? I do. I answered honestly. But hating him won't make my life better. Daniel smiled. I like this version of you. So do I. That evening, Noah and I walked to the neighborhood park. The sun was beginning to set. Children laughed near the swings. Parents talked on nearby benches. Everything felt normal. Then I heard shouting. I turned toward the parking lot. Ryan and Sophia stood beside their car. Neither noticed us. You promised things would be different. Sophia shouted. Ryan threw his hands into the air. I never promised we'd be rich. You promised you'd make me happy. I can't fix everything. You barely have a job. I lost it because everything fell apart. No, she pointed at him. You fell apart. People nearby pretended not to stare. I quietly took Noah's hand. Come on, buddy. He looked confused. Aren't they Uncle Ryan and Mommy? They're talking. They're yelling. I know. We walked away before they saw us. That night, I couldn't stop thinking about what I had witnessed. Not because I felt victorious. Because I remembered another evening. One when Ryan laughed in my kitchen. One when Sophia smiled while I thanked my own brother for keeping her company. Life had changed so quickly. A few days later, Mrs. Brooks knocked on my apartment door. She wasn't alone. Her granddaughter Lily stood beside her holding a phone. I'm sorry to interrupt. It's okay. Mrs. Brooks smiled gently. Lily has something she thinks you should see. Lily looked embarrassed. I didn't mean to record them. What happened? I was filming a video for school at the park. She unlocked her phone. My camera was pointed toward the fountain. The video began. Children ran across the grass. Then Ryan and Sophia walked in the frame. Their voices became louder. You ruined everything. Sophia shouted. Ryan answered without lowering his voice. You left Ethan because you thought life with me would be easier. I left because you said we'd be happy. I was an idiot. So was I. The argument continued for another minute. Lily quickly stopped the recording. I didn't know if you needed it. I handed her phone back. Thank you. Mrs. Brooks studied my face. You aren't smiling. Should I be? Some people would. I slowly shook my head. I spent years loving both of them. She nodded quietly. I suppose that makes this harder. It does. After they left, I sat alone in my apartment. I could have shared that video with everyone. I could have proven Sophia's public story was a lie. I could have embarrassed both of them. Instead, I deleted the copy Lily had sent me, not because they deserved kindness, because I deserved peace. That weekend, Noah stayed with me again. We built another blanket fort. We watched superhero movies. We ordered pizza. Before bed, he looked at me. Daddy, yeah, you laugh more now. I smiled. Do I? Yes. I like hearing you laugh. I hugged him tightly. I like laughing with you. After he fell asleep, I stood by the window. Across the neighborhood, I could see lights glowing inside Ryan and Sophia's house. Somewhere in the distance, another argument echoed through the quiet night. I closed my curtains. For months, I had imagined revenge would make me feel whole again. Instead, life taught me something far more powerful. I didn't have to destroy the people who betrayed me. They were already destroying each other. Karma hadn't asked for my help. It had quietly arrived on its own. One broken promise, one unpaid bill, one sleepless night, and one bitter argument at a time. As I turned off the lights and walked toward my son's room, I realized something that finally brought me peace. The greatest victory wasn't watching their lives fall apart. It was realizing mine no longer depended on theirs. Life continued moving forward, even when I thought mine had stopped forever. Every morning, I woke up in my small apartment with a little more peace than the day before. The pain hadn't disappeared. It had simply stopped controlling me. One afternoon, Daniel walked into my office holding 2 cups of coffee. I figured you could use a break. I never say no to coffee. He handed me one and smiled. You've changed. You said that before. I'm saying it again. I laughed. What's different this time? You don't carry the weight of the whole world anymore. I finally realized I was never supposed to. He nodded. Exactly. Before I could answer, Michael stepped into my office. Ethan, do you have a minute? Of course. Daniel excused himself, leaving us alone. Michael closed the door behind him. I've been reviewing the department's numbers. I waited quietly. They're the best they've been in years. That's good to hear. It's more than good. He smiled. You become the leader I always believed you could be. Thank you. I also noticed something else. What? You leave on time. I laughed softly. I do. And somehow the work still gets done. I learned that staying late doesn't always mean working better. Michael nodded proudly. I'm glad you figured that out before I did. He reached out his hand. I'm proud of you. I shook it. For the first time in years, I'm proud of myself too. That evening, Noah was waiting outside my apartment building. The moment he saw me, he ran toward me. Daddy. I caught him in my arms. Hey, buddy, can we ride our bikes? Absolutely. We spent an hour riding around the neighborhood. Noah laughed every time I pretended he was winning our little races. When we finally stopped, he looked up at me. I like staying here. You do? He nodded. It's quiet. I smiled. It is. There aren't any people yelling. Those words hit me harder than he realized. I gently placed my hand on his shoulder. I want this place to always feel safe. It does. That single sentence reminded me why I kept rebuilding instead of looking backward. A few days later, my phone rang while I was cooking dinner. It was my mother. Ethan? Hi, Mom. Can I come by? Of course. She arrived 30 minutes later, carrying a homemade pie. She looked nervous. I wasn't sure if you'd answer. I'll always answer your calls. She sat across from me at the kitchen table. For a long moment, neither of us spoke. Finally, she took a deep breath. I owe you an apology. You don't have to. Yes, I do. She looked down at her hands. When you told me about Ryan, I doubted you. I remember. I wanted to believe my family couldn't do something so terrible. I understand. She shook her head. No, I should have believed my son. Tears filled her eyes. I'm so sorry. I reached across the table and gently held her hand. You weren't protecting Ryan. I know. You were protecting the family you thought still existed. She began crying. I lost one son. No. I squeezed her hand. You didn't lose him. He chose to walk away. She nodded slowly. I just wish I could change everything. So do I? She looked around my apartment. You've built a peaceful home. I'm trying. I can see that. Before leaving, she hugged me tightly. I'm proud of the man you've become. So am I? Those words surprised both of us. Weeks passed. Life settled into a comfortable routine. Work, dinner with Noah, weekend bike rides, movie nights. Simple moments became my favorite memories. Then one rainy evening, someone knocked on my apartment door. I opened it. Sophia stood there. She looked thinner than I remembered. Dark circles rested beneath her eyes. She held no bags, no excuses, only regret. Can we talk? I hesitated before stepping aside. She quietly entered. This place feels peaceful. It is. She looked around the small living room. I never imagined you'd be happy in an apartment. I never imagined happiness depended on the size of a house. She lowered her eyes. I've made so many mistakes. I stayed silent. She sat on the couch. I thought life with Ryan would be easier. She laughed bitterly. I thought we'd be happy. And we argue every day. I didn't answer. He lost his job. I heard. We're struggling. Again, I stayed quiet. She looked directly at me. I destroyed the best thing I ever had. The room became silent. I know saying sorry isn't enough. It isn't. I know. Tears rolled down her face. I missed a man who loved me. I looked at her calmly. That man doesn't exist anymore. She closed her eyes. I was afraid you'd say that. The man you betrayed spent years believing love meant sacrificing everything. I paused. Heartbreak changed him. She whispered softly, I wish I could go back. So do I. She looked hopeful. Can we ever try again? I gently shook my head. No, not because I hate you. Then why? Because I finally learned how to love myself. She covered her face as she cried. I didn't feel angry. I didn't feel satisfied. I only felt sadness for two people who had thrown away something beautiful. When she stood to leave, she stopped at the door. I hope you're happy. I smiled gently. I already am. She nodded once before walking into the rain. I quietly closed the door behind her. For a long moment, I stood there listening to the silence. This time, it wasn't empty. It was peaceful. And I realized a man who had once walked into a silent house, searching for answers, had disappeared forever. In his place stood someone stronger, wiser, and finally free. The morning after Sophia left my apartment, I expected to feel confused. Instead, I felt calm. For months, I had imagined what I would say if she ever came back. I thought I would yell. I thought I would demand answers. Instead, I had simply told the truth. The man she wanted no longer existed. A week later, my phone buzzed. Ryan. I stared at his name for several seconds before answering. Hello. Ethan. His voice sounded tired. Can we meet? Why? I owe you the truth. You already do. Please. I looked out the office window. 1 hour. Thank you. We met at a quiet park where we used to play baseball as children. Ryan stood beside an empty bench with his hands in his pockets. He looked older than I remembered, not because of time, because of regret. You came, he said. You asked. Neither of us sat down. He took a long breath. I've practiced this conversation 100 times. Then don't waste it. He nodded. I need you to know something. I'm listening. It was never really about Sophia. I frowned. What? I told myself I loved her. You did. No. He shook his head. I loved beating you. His words landed harder than I expected. What are you talking about? You were always the better brother. I never competed with you. I know. Then why? He laughed bitterly. Because I did. I stayed silent. You got better grades. I studied. You worked harder. I had goals. Mom always said you were responsible. I sighed. Ryan, I hated hearing people compare us. I never asked them to. I know. His eyes filled with tears. When Sophia started talking to me, he stopped. I felt like I had finally won. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. So this wasn't love? I convinced myself it was. And now I know it was jealousy. He looked down at the ground. I spent years trying to become you. You could have become yourself. I didn't know how. The wind moved quietly through the trees. I ruined my own life trying to steal yours. I looked at my younger brother. For the first time, I didn't see an enemy. I saw a broken man who had spent his entire life chasing someone else's shadow. I'm sorry, he whispered. I know. I don't expect forgiveness. You shouldn't. He nodded slowly. I just wanted you to know the truth. You should have told yourself the truth years ago. He gave a weak smile. I wish I had. Without another word, he turned around and walked away. I didn't stop him. Some journeys had to be finished alone. That evening, Noah and I were building another blanket fort when someone knocked on the apartment door. I already knew who it was. Sophia stood outside. Her eyes were swollen from crying. Please. I stepped into the hallway and quietly closed the door behind me. What do you want? One last chance. There isn't one. We can fix this. I shook my head. No, I'll do anything. It isn't about effort anymore. It has to be. It isn't. She grabbed my hand. I still love you. I gently pulled away. You loved me after choosing someone else. I made a mistake. You made thousands. Tears rolled down her face. I know. We can rebuild. I looked at her calmly. Do you know what trust is? She stayed quiet. It's like glass. I pointed toward the apartment. It only has to break once. I'll spend the rest of my life earning it back. You can't. Why not? Because every time I leave for work, I paused. I'd wonder who was waiting inside my house. She lowered her head. I understand. No, you finally understand. There was a difference. She cried quietly. I miss our family. So do I. I miss our dinners. So do I. I miss you. I took a slow breath. I miss the woman I thought you were. She covered her mouth. I hate myself. I don't. She looked surprised. You don't. No, I don't have enough room in my heart for hate anymore. What do you feel? Sadness. She whispered softly. Is that all? No, I also feel grateful. Her eyebrows lifted. For what? For surviving. At that moment, I noticed movement through the living room window. Noah stood inside holding his favorite stuffed bear. He wasn't trying to listen. He was simply watching, waiting, trusting me. I smiled gently at him. He smiled back. Then I looked at Sophia again. My son is watching. She turned toward the window. He deserves better. He deserves peace. He deserves parents who put him first. I nodded. Exactly. She wiped away another tear. I wish I had understood that sooner. So do I? She took one final step toward me. This is really goodbye? Yes. You'll never come back? No. She closed her eyes. I finally understand what I lost. I opened the apartment door. I hope one day you become someone you're proud of. And you, I already am. She nodded once. Goodbye, Ethan. Goodbye, Sophia. She walked slowly toward the parking lot, without looking back. I watched until her car disappeared around the corner. Then I went inside. Noah looked up at me. Is Mommy okay? I knelt beside him. She'll be okay. And us? I smiled. We're going to be more than okay. He wrapped his arms around my neck. I hugged him tightly. As I held my son, I realized revenge had never been the answer. If I had spent my life trying to hurt Ryan and Sophia, they would have continued living inside my mind. They had already stolen enough from me. I refused to give them another day. Walking away wasn't weakness. It wasn't surrender. It was freedom. And as I closed the apartment door, I understood that saying goodbye to my past had become the greatest victory I would ever achieve. Nearly a year had passed since the night that changed my life. Sometimes it felt like yesterday. Sometimes it felt like another lifetime. The biggest surprise wasn't that the pain had faded. It was that peace had quietly taken its place. Every morning began the same way. I made coffee. Noah poured cereal into his bowl. Most of it landed inside. Some of it didn't. "Daddy, what happened?" The cereal escaped. I laughed. "I think we'll survive. So will the floor." We cleaned the little mess together. Moments like that used to feel ordinary. Now they felt priceless. After dropping Noah off at school, I drove to work. The office no longer felt like my entire world. It was simply where I earned a living. Michael stopped by my office carrying 2 folders. "I've got good news." "I like good news." He smiled. "Our department exceeded every goal this year. That's because everyone worked together. And because you finally learned how to lead instead of trying to do everything yourself. I had a good teacher." He laughed. "I think you've passed me." I shook my head. "I've just learned what really matters." He nodded proudly. "I can see that." Before leaving, he added one more sentence. "Go home on time tonight." I already planned to. I know. That simple exchange reminded me how different my life had become. I no longer measured success by the number of late nights I survived. I measured it by the evenings I spent at home. One Saturday afternoon, my mother invited Noah and me to lunch. She had cooked enough food for an entire neighborhood. Noah laughed as she placed another piece of pie on his plate. "Grandma, I'm full. Growing boys always have room for dessert." He looked at me. "Is that true?" I smiled. "Today it is." We all laughed. After Noah went into the backyard to play, my mother became quiet. "I saw Ryan yesterday." I looked at her calmly. "How is he?" "He found another job." "That's good." "He's trying." I nodded. "I hope he keeps trying." She sighed. "He still regrets everything." I believe that. "He asks about you." I looked out the window. "I hope he finds peace someday." She reached across the table. "You've forgiven him, haven't you?" I thought carefully before answering. "I've forgiven the anger. And Ryan, I've accepted that I can't change him." She smiled sadly. "That's probably enough." "I think it is." She squeezed my hand. "I'm grateful you didn't let this destroy your heart." "I almost did." "But you didn't." "No, I chose Noah instead." She wiped away a small tear. "Your father will be proud of the man you become." Those words stayed with me all day. A few weeks later, I returned home after work and found an envelope resting beneath my apartment door. There was no stamp, only my name written in familiar handwriting. Sophia. I stood quietly in the hallway for several seconds before opening it. Inside was a handwritten letter. I unfolded the paper. "Ethan, asterisk, I don't expect forgiveness, and I don't expect an answer. Asterisk, asterisk, I only want to say I am sorry. Asterisk, asterisk, I blamed your work because it was easier than admitting my own weakness. Asterisk, asterisk, you gave me loyalty, trust, and a future. Asterisk, asterisk, I traded those things for excitement that disappeared almost as quickly as it arrived. Asterisk, asterisk, every day I live with the consequences of my choices. Asterisk, asterisk, you were the best husband I could have asked for, and I became the worst wife you never deserved. Asterisk, asterisk, I hope Noah grows up knowing how deeply his father loved him. Asterisk, asterisk, I also hope one day you remember me without anger. Asterisk, asterisk, goodbye. Asterisk, asterisk, Sophia. Asterisk, I quietly folded the letter. I didn't cry. I didn't smile. I simply walked to my bedroom. I opened the top drawer of my dresser. Inside rested my old wedding ring, a few family photographs, a handful of memories I no longer carried every day. I placed Sophia's letter inside. Then I closed the drawer. Some chapters deserved to be remembered. Others deserved to remain closed. That evening, Noah burst through the apartment door, wearing a huge grin. "Daddy, What happened? I got the highest score on my spelling test. Seriously? He handed me the paper proudly. 98. I smiled. I'm proud of you. He looked disappointed. I missed one word. I laughed. So did I? What? I've made mistakes too. Big ones. Very big ones. He looked thoughtful. Did you fix them? I smiled gently. I learned from them. He nodded. I'll do that too. We made dinner together. He stirred the pasta. I chopped vegetables. Music played softly in the background. No shouting, no tension, no lies hiding behind closed doors. Just laughter, just peace. As we sat down at the table, Noah looked at me. Daddy, yeah, I like our home. So do I. It feels warm. I looked around the apartment. The furniture was still simple. The walls were still plain. Nothing about it looked impressive. Yet it had become the richest home I had ever lived in, because it was filled with trust, with honesty, with quiet evenings and shared meals. Halfway through dinner, Noah laughed after dropping a noodle onto the floor. I laughed with him. The sound filled every corner of the apartment. For a brief moment, I remembered another kind of silence. The silence that greeted me the night I discovered the betrayal. Back then, silence had meant fear. It had meant broken trust. It had meant the end of everything I believed. Now silence meant something completely different. It meant safety. It meant peace. It meant coming home without wondering what waited behind the door. I looked across the table at my son. He was smiling with complete innocence. Watching him laugh, I finally understood something that had taken me an entire year to learn. Losing the wrong people had made room for the right life. I had won because Ryan and Sophia lost. I had won because I refused to lose myself. Revenge would have chained me to yesterday. Forgiveness had set me free. As Noah reached across the table for another piece of bread, I smiled and passed it to him. Outside, the evening grew quiet. Inside, our home was filled with something far stronger than noise. It was filled with love, hope, and peace. And in that moment, I knew with complete certainty that peace, not revenge, had become the greatest victory of my life.